Hi, this is Lori Barnes here to talk to you about the upcoming Capricorn full moon. It's going to be a bit chaotic, anxiety-provoking, mentally and physically restless. There are things that you can do to move in the flow with this month's second Capricorn full moon. Stay tuned for tips and ideas for how to work with the upcoming full moon this weekend. The full moon coming up this weekend will be in Capricorn. This is the second consecutive Capricorn full moon. This doesn't happen very often where we have a full moon 2 months in a row in the same sign. You can see the date and time of the full moon. It's this Sunday. If you're on the west coast of the US, it's 3:17 a.m., East Coast, 6:17 a.m., and if you're over here in Italy or in Central Europe, where I am, it'll be 9:17 a.m. in the morning, and it is at 29 degrees Capricorn. You can see the chart here of the upcoming full moon. This full moon is in Capricorn, so it highlights the Cancer-Capricorn axis in the zodiac. These two signs are always across from each other, and when they're highlighted, they bring up the themes and topics of home and family, and vocation or public status. 29 degrees is an important degree in astrology. It's called the anaretic degree, also called a critical degree. When a planet is occupying this degree of the zodiac, these are some of the qualities that come about from that energy. It's a point of transition. It's the end of a cycle. It has this quality of finality, change. There's a critical juncture as we leave one zodiac sign and go into another. There's this sense of urgency. It's a very potent energy. When we're talking about the outer planets that move very slowly, when they're going through this last degree of the sign that they're in, it's a really important time period. We have been experiencing that with Pluto, and we're going to have the final visit of Pluto into Capricorn later this year, September the 2nd through November the 19th. Pluto's been in Aquarius since earlier this year, and it's making its last visit to Capricorn before it moves into Aquarius to stay 20 plus years. So this 29 degree with Pluto, we can really see how we're going through this pivotal period of time of change. And the other two outer planets, Uranus and Neptune, will also be changing signs next year, and they're going to be going through this 29 degrees. So I think that this Capricorn full moon at 29 degrees is really highlighting this time of change that we're going through. It's a long period of change. It's the full moon is going to be a day, the energy that comes on Sunday with the full moon. The faster moving planets, they're going to move on, but these slower moving planets, they take a long time to make their transition. And it's really important to pay attention when a planet is at the very end of the sign going to the next one, when it's one of these slow moving planets. This upcoming full moon is in Capricorn, so of course we want to look at the qualities of Capricorn. Some of the keywords for Capricorn are ambition, discipline, structure, where you put in the hard effort. And Capricorn tends to climb the ladder, seek recognition, and have control. Some of the archetypes of Capricorn are the achiever, the disciplinarian, the ambitious climber, and the CEO. It's an earth sign, which gives it that practicality, that grounded nature, show me the facts kind of energy. And it's also of the cardinal modality. They tend towards leadership. They tend to take charge. They take action. Cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. The symbol of Capricorn is the sea goat. Oftentimes you see just the goat, but it's actually the sea goat. We also want to look at the sign Cancer because it's across the way from Capricorn. When we have a full moon, it's always an opposition. It's always those two signs in opposition, which you can see here in the chart. We have the sun at 29 degrees of Cancer, and we have the moon at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Some of the Cancer keywords are emotional security, family connection, nurturing, appreciation of the home comfort or the comfort of home. And remember that it's the sun in Cancer that's shining its light on the full moon. So that full moon is taking that light that's coming through the sign of Cancer. Some of the archetypes for Cancer are the mother, priestess, nurturer, cook, empath, homemaker. Cancer is a water element sign. It operates on emotion. It has a great amount of intuition. And it's also a cardinal modality, just like Capricorn. So it has quick instincts. And of course, all the cardinal signs have leadership qualities. Cancer leadership looks different than Capricorn, Cancer tends to be less direct than Capricorn. What is special about the cardinal quality of Cancer is how quick they can intuit something and then take action. Cancer has a great ability to take quick action based on its instincts. And the Cancer symbol is the crab, which tends to move sideways and not direct. There are quite a few relationships happening between the planets and the sun and the moon at the upcoming full moon. It's a lot busier with aspects than what we typically see in the lunations. And there's a lot of agitating and nervous type of energy. So I'm going to start by sharing the aspects that the sun and moon are involved in. The sun and moon connect with Neptune, which is also at 29 degrees. So this is a very potent connection between the sun and the moon and Neptune. There can be escapism, wanting to just kind of get away, more confusion. And there can be this bubbling up of confusion between what you know and what you feel, feeling like what's coming up for you is fact and it may not be. You definitely want to check your facts. Then we have Sun across from the planet Pluto. Now, I don't usually look at out of sign relationships, but because the sun is going to move into the sign of Leo right after the full moon, it is coming into the focus of Pluto, which is in Aquarius. And you can see that here in the chart. You can see the moon down at the bottom in Capricorn, right next to Pluto. So right after the full moon, the moon is going to join Pluto in Aquarius and the sun is going to be opposite Pluto in Leo. So it's just important to be aware of that. Pluto sun is like power struggles, and there could be some hidden truths that are coming up. We see this happening in the media. This is really being played out on the world stage. We will also have the sun making a sextile to Mars, and that's going to happen right after the sun moves into Leo. This can bring an enhanced amount of energy and motivation, wanting to do more things. There can also be overreacting to whatever is happening. You can probably see that playing out in the world. We have sun and the moon making a connection to Uranus, and this brings an unpredictable quality to this full moon. There can be a sense of, I don't know what's coming and from which direction, because it just seems like there's chaos. It can also have a theme of independence, wanting to do things differently and breaking away from the norms, doing things differently. And now we want to look at the other connections that are being made between the planets. There is just a lot going on. So I'm going to share these different relationships and then I'm going to sum it up. Don't worry, I'm going to pull all this together. We have all three outer planets very active at the full moon this weekend. These three planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are all making exact aspects to another planet. We have Mercury making a tension-oriented square to Uranus, and that's exact. You can see that in the chart. We have Mercury at 26 degrees of Leo, and we have Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus. Then we have the sun and the moon making that contact with Neptune that we just talked about. And you have the sun here, you have the moon down here across from each other, and they are both making contact with Neptune, which is here. And you can see that at 29 degrees. That is the escapism, intuition, creativity, illusion, some of the qualities that come with that connection. And then we have Mars trine Pluto. This is exact at 0 degrees. With this connection, there is an easy flow of energy between these two planets. There can be power struggles, aggression, or assertion. Assertion can lead to aggression. Do be careful this weekend in avoiding contentious relationships that can escalate quickly. Here we have Mars at 0 degrees, and then we have Pluto in Aquarius at 0 degrees. Mars is going to move into Gemini, which is one of Mercury's signs, words and movement. Mercury is the planet of communication. Mars is the planet of taking action. We can see an increase in verbal aggression and an increase in ideological clashes. We're already seeing this, but as Mars moves into Gemini and makes that connection to Pluto, we will probably see more. As Mars moves through Gemini, it's making its way to Jupiter, which is also in Gemini. And we can see that here with Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. As Mars gets closer and closer to Jupiter, it's also going towards a square with Saturn. Jupiter and Mars are moving into a square with Saturn. With Jupiter and Mars, we can see an increase in heated debates, aggressive debates, conflicts that have already been existent for a while, as we've seen in the world. They're probably going to get even more explosive, more aggressive, and it's going to be about ideology, two different sides both thinking that they're correct. Jupiter is about expansion. Saturn is about restriction and condensing. As we have Mars go towards Jupiter, they are both going into a square with Saturn. So there can be a lot of frustration as well, feeling like you're restricted, maybe both sides feeling restricted and wanting to push ideology on the other side. Patience is the way to move through this energy this weekend, especially when we think about Jupiter as the gas pedal and Saturn as the brake, and then Mars coming along trying to get both of these planets taking action. It's like gas pedal brake, gas pedal brake. It's going to be a difficult weekend. Keep on listening to hear about some of the things that you can do as we go through this weekend so that you can stay out of the drama. So here we go. Some ideas for how to work with this energy as we move through the weekend and we see the moon culminate into the full moon. Small things can be over-exaggerated or explosive. They can become bigger than they need to be. The way to work with that is to use as much patience as you can. You may not be a patient person, but now that you've heard what's going on, you can think ahead and kind of plan ahead for using patience. And how do you do that? You hit the pause button. You just know if you respond to something that is probably going to escalate. Instead of letting it escalate, hit the pause button. Take a time out. Say, hey, I just need to cool down. Or if you're not face to face with someone, just don't respond. If it's social media, don't respond. If it's watching something on the news and it's making you feel nervous or anxious or angry, turn it off. There will probably be heightened emotions with all this planetary activity going on. Take that energy and put it into something creative. There's probably going to be a lot of disruptive conversations and a lot of conflict. And it's already happening. So we can just turn on the news and we can see all these things that are already happening. I highly recommend taking a break. Maybe just decide for your own well-being that you are not going to get on social media and you're not going to watch the news. You're just going to take a wellness break, take a week off. If you can't take that long away, just try to not go on social media or watch the news for the rest of this week and over the weekend. Take a break and do it with your friends. That could be a fun thing to do if you all do it together. We can see words being used as weapons in these ideological clashes. It's really important that you think about the words you're using when you're communicating. Are your words inflammatory? Are your words going to upset the other person to the point where you cannot have a conversation anymore? We see this happening a lot, and it's not really helpful. If you want to debate two different sides, that's fantastic. That's a great thing to do, people having a conversation and debating. But if you can't actually debate, if it's just going to escalate into an argument or worse, then don't do it. But if you can, then use that mindful communication. Think about what you're going to say. Think about if somebody was speaking to you. How would you want to hear those words so that you could actually have a conversation and not just get upset and angry? Basically, what happens is people, when they don't like what they hear, it's just an argument. But when it's presented in a way that you could hear it, where you could discuss it, you could be open to what that other person is saying, then you can have mindful communication. If it's just two people telling the other person that they're wrong and using words that are not kind, or they're using words that make the other person feel like they're just wrong, and of course the other person doesn't think that they're wrong, and if you are telling them they're wrong, it's not going to turn into a conversation. It's just going to turn into a big argument, and neither of you are going to be satisfied. So try to practice using that mindful communication. The golden rule: speak to others the way you want to be spoken to. There's this risk of confusion and a chance of escapism as well. Not only do you want to be mindful of the words that you're using, you also want to be aware that there is this higher chance that your words could be misconstrued or there could be confusion. That's that Neptune involvement. Be clear about what you're saying. Watch out for that escapism. If you have any history of addiction, be aware that you may feel drawn to just escape out of whatever conflict you might be exposed to, and use healthy alternatives. Take that break from media, take a break from social media and from the news if these things are upsetting you. If there's a person or a place or a thing that's really causing you a lot of frustration, take a pause from it. Do the best you can to create a little bubble for yourself and put your energy into something creative that can benefit you in the long run. Capricorn is about the long term. Invest your time into something that is going to have a good benefit to you in the long run. You also would benefit from practicing self-care and learning some grounding exercises. And grounding means being in touch with your body and being in touch with your surroundings. It can help with focus and calming your body. Things like yoga or meditation, even walking, connecting yourself to nature or to the earth. If you live near a body of water where you can go and walk on the sand, take your shoes off and actually connect, ground yourself to the earth. If you're not near water, go to a park, go somewhere where you can take your shoes off and connect with the land. That can really help, and get away from the media and from the electricity and all of the things that stimulate this nervous energy and restless energy that's going to be all around as we go through the weekend. With the Pluto connection to Mars, and of course across from the sun, we're probably going to see more power struggles. If you do get drawn into a power struggle, try to get out of it as fast as you can. And how do you do that? You just stop engaging. You can say, I want to take a pause. I want to take a time out. If it's face to face, if it's online, you just stop responding. One of the hardest things about power struggles is just recognizing that you're in it. Because when you're drawn in, you're just like, oh, do. And then somebody says something to you, and then you're like, do, right back. And it can just be this back and forth, back and forth. That's power struggle if you're not getting anywhere. If you're not using the mindful words, if you're not using mindful communication, it can get just into this power struggle situation, and you just want to recognize it. That's the hardest thing. Once you recognize you're in it, then you get out, you stop engaging. That's how you do it. It's not this complex thing to do to get out of a power struggle. You just stop. Way easier said than done, but that's what you do. Hidden truths. There's a lot of information being shared in the world right now, a lot of misinformation. It's not my place to say what is true or what's not true. It is our responsibility as individuals to seek that truth. If somebody says something in the media, on social media, you can't always take it for face value. And your best mode of operation is to do your own research and make sure that you're looking at reputable sources. So what does this mean for you? It's always important to look at your own chart. The chart that I was sharing earlier in the slides is the chart of the full moon. That's where the planets are going to be this Sunday. And you want to know where those planets are falling in your chart. So first you have to have your chart. If you don't already have it, you can get a free one online. There's lots of different generators. The two that I usually recommend are astro.com or astro-seek.com. You go in, you type your information in, you get your chart, and then look around the wheel and find the signs where the planets are. Look up the topics and themes associated with each of the 12 astrology houses, and that's going to give you a lot more information about what's activated in your chart, and that can help you prepare for what's likely going to come up over the full moon. These are the signs that are occupied by the planets. Look for Taurus, and that's where Uranus is. You look for Gemini, that's where Mars and Jupiter are traveling. You look for Cancer, that's the sign the sun is traveling through. Look for Leo, and you'll find Venus and Mercury. You look for Capricorn, that's where the full moon is taking place. You look for Aquarius, that's where Pluto is in 0 degree, the very first degree of the sign. That's where the moon is going to cross over that point right after the full moon. And then you look for Pisces. That's where you're going to find Saturn and Neptune. They will be traveling in that part of your chart, the Pisces part of your chart. We have just entered the next Mercury retrograde cycle. I love working with Mercury retrograde cycles, and I'm going to share with you how to do that. Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, and those periods of time are perfect for taking a pause, reviewing what you have accomplished in the last 3 months since the last Mercury retrograde. You reflect, you review, what have you done? What needs updated? You can get new insight now that you're looking at it again after it's kind of like been done and you've put out there whatever it is that you've done, and you review, you reflect, you realign. The Mercury retrograde is for realigning. It's catching things small before they get big. It's being able to go back and look at a body of work that you've done. And it doesn't have to be one thing, it can be multiple things. I always look at my goals and how much I have progressed. I always find that when I look back over something after a little bit of time has gone by and I'm in a Mercury retrograde, I can update it. I can make it better. I can have a fresh look at something that I already created with a new eye. So this is a good way to use Mercury retrograde. We start the Mercury retrograde cycle with what's called the pre-shadow period, and that is when Mercury crosses over the degree that it's going to retrograde back to. That has already started. July 17th was the beginning of the pre-shadow Mercury retrograde phase. So we are already in this as we are moving into the full moon. This is going to bring even more of that confusion to the mix. Mercury actually goes retrograde on August the 5th at 4 degrees of Virgo, and it will retrograde back to 21 degrees of Leo. It will go direct on August the 28th. At that time, it goes into its post-shadow phase, and that's when it travels back over those same degrees again. And when it gets to the degree where it went retrograde, that's when the post-shadow phase ends. And that will be on September the 12th. Remember, reflect, review, realign with Mercury retrograde. This is the quote that I found for you for the full moon. I think that this fits really well. When you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control how you respond to what's happening. That's where your power lies. Power, Pluto, can't control what's happening, all this stuff going on. Uranus, Mercury, which happened right after the Mars-Uranus conjunction. That is explosive energy. If you're not sure how this is going to impact you in your chart, please schedule a consultation with me. I would love to help you look at your chart and understand these energies. You can schedule with me at LoriBarnesAstrology.com. So here are activities that you could do for the full moon this weekend. If you do a full moon ritual, use Capricorn's element, which is Earth. I have a free guide, which I will link to below in the description. And with the sun in Cancer, reflecting the light onto the full moon, I would combine water and earth. Water is Cancer's element and earth is Capricorn's element. You could go to the beach, put your feet in the sand, or you could take a bath. Maybe you don't want to leave your house and you just want to have a self-care, nurturing weekend with no media, no news, no social media. You can take a nice, lovely bath and include some earth element things like bath salts or herbs. I can't stress enough how much I think it would be helpful to take a break from media and news, so that's on the list, and focus on things that require both your mind to create ideas and then action, like taking action to do them. That brings in the Mercury and Mars, the thinking and the doing. Use mindful approaches to daily living. I wrote an article with that name, and I'm going to link to it below. So if you're like, oh, I definitely want to do some grounding stuff and I want to be more mindful about how I'm communicating, but I don't know how to do that, I have a blog for you and you can read it and get some ideas. I do think there's going to be a lot of increased nervous energy this weekend. So take that energy and channel it into something that's going to benefit you. The other way that we're going to see a lot of people experiencing this energy is they're going to channel a lot of it into arguing, debating, trying to tell everyone that they're right. And, you know, politicians, that's what they do. We're going to see a lot of that in the news. But for you personally, you may just want to let it all go. That energy has to go somewhere. You want to put that energy into good use. Avoid people, places, and things that stir up frustration or anger and put it into something creative. And I guess because I thought this was so important, I put it on here twice to take that break from news and social media. I would say it could be fun to invite your friends. If you're like, I want to take a break, but my friends, that's all they talk about, or that's like a big thing in my social life, then maybe ask some of your friends to take that break with you. That could be helpful for all of you. I would love to help you with your chart. You can reach me at LoriBarnesAstrology.com. I offer consultations, coaching packages, and I also help astrologers grow and market their astrology practice. I'll see you next time. Thanks.